lose all sense of reality and enter another world. Remember, do not underestimate the power of PlayStation.
Beyond.
What's up, everybody? Welcome
That's
to
weird.
Podcast episode 341. I'm one of your hosts, Greg Miller, alongside He Only Does Everything, Colin Moriarty.
Hello.
Welcome back.
Thanks.
You went on retirement vacation.
I did.
Hashtag
retirement
What
vacation.
did you do?
Didn't do anything.
That's what retirement vacation's all about.
It was awesome.
Yeah?
Yeah, I enjoyed myself. I did nothing. Played a couple games, but otherwise just hung out, slept, read.
It was like Office Space. I did nothing, and it was everything I hoped it could be.
Yeah, it was fantastic. Yeah.
Okay, great. And the third voice you hear, Mr. Multi-Platform Ryan McCaffrey.
Hello.
You came by request of Twitter, as most of you're in the ever-rotating third chair. Of course, Colin and I anchor the show, then the third chair constantly moving different. That's just you. You're just rotating your body. They tweeted at me last night, said you reviewed the show, you should come on the show, you're on the show. That's how easy it is. Tweet at us.
Done.
Who you want to see on. A lot of people keep tweeting about, or not a lot of people, one guy keeps tweeting about Leah B. Jackson coming on.
Okay.
I'm fine with it too, but what has
Does she have any insight?
What has she been playing on PlayStation
I don't
recently?
know.
That's the whole thing. You got
What some PC games?
Exactly. What a little Dota.
We can do an on-air Vita quiz of 10 questions. And it will do it right in the beginning of the show, and she has to answer 7 correctly, or she has to leave.
Oh,
right
wow.
there.
Just get a
That's
C.
harsh.
Get a
Yeah, I
C.
like that a lot. Yeah, just pass. You know what I mean? Of course, Ryan, you host Podcast Unlocked.
I do.
That's IGN's
new episodes every Wednesday.
That's IGN's Xbox podcast.
It is.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
I love to have you. You know how much I love working with you. We don't get to do it enough.
In fact,
We talk about it all
we're
the
going to
time.
have to do a little foreign exchange here. Colin, you're going to have to come by Unlocked and talk about your Sunset Overdrive
For sure,
experience.
yeah.
You got to go down to Insomniac a couple weeks ago.
Yep.
Check out the game.
Yep. And we'll have more on that very soon.
Thursday.
He's wearing a
Sunset
shirt.
Overdrive.
He's wearing the shirt.
Insomniac Games, you might know them, my PlayStation brethren.
And then what's his sleeve
What
say?
is that?
I love it.
Microsoft Studios.
What?
You didn't even know they had a first party, did you?
In honor of you coming over here
Talk
and
to me.
the Xbox that come to the PlayStation podcast, we have a question. Not even
Okay.
a question so much as just, I guess there's a question at
All
the
right.
end, all right? Tommy from
Yep.
Oklahoma State University writes into Beyond at IGN.com, just like you can. He says, after a 3-year hiatus, I finally got a girlfriend. She's an Xbox girl, so her knowledge of PlayStation is minimal. On our second weekend, the weekend we consummated, about 13 seconds, I made her play The Last of Us. It's 1:36 a.m. and she's been playing for 2 hours, and she is as enthralled as we all were. I think I'm in love. What a great game, eh?
Yes.
Have fun Beyond. Congratulations on getting a girlfriend, Tommy.
Tommy at Oklahoma State University by way of Manitoba.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah.
I think by introducing her to The Last of Us, he's bought himself another 13-second round.
Yeah.
Yeah, look at that, everybody. That's what we
26
do.
cumulative seconds of bliss.
After a 3-year hiatus, he's been playing in the minors. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Podcast Beyond, IGN's PlayStation podcast. We come to you each and every week. Tuesday as an MP3, Wednesday as the full-blown video with breakouts. After that, let's begin the show with what is and forever will be the Roper Report. Time for some news.
There are 8 items on the list.
8?
It's pretty bad, actually.
8 is enough. I was looking for something.
8 is enough.
Sinister
The
Six
grade 8?
wasn't there.
Grade 8?
Yeah, grade 8.
All right.
That's
I
good.
don't
That's
think
good.
there's ever been 6 items on any Roper Report I've written, so
Yeah,
you're
that's
never
true.
going to be able to use that. Number 1. PlayStation 4 may be selling very well, but Sony as a corporation is still not in a healthy place. The company has revised its earning expectations downward for the fiscal year, saying it will lose $200 million more than it had originally expected. Its overall net loss for the year should be around $1.27 billion. Last fiscal year, it actually netted a profit of $89 million. That can't be right. I think it's $489 million.
Well, no, remember they sold the big building last year.
That's
Remember
what
that?
I was just saying. I think it was a little higher than
Yeah,
that.
he thinks there's more.
The losses are attributed to, quote, unforeseen expenses tied to the sale of its Vio PC division. Apparently, they have a ton of stock, unsold stock, and that's bringing all their earnings down.
PlayStation's doing fine.
PlayStation
doing
is profitable,
well.
yes.
Everything else is just screwing it up.
Yeah.
Are they ever going to spin it out?
I don't know if that makes any sense for Sony to do.
Yeah.
So,
Because the only thing
I think
keeping them alive.
I think it's good for PlayStation. I don't think it's good for
Yeah.
Sony. No. So, no, I wouldn't expect them to do that. We'll see.
All right.
A lot of talk of
Xbox.
Microsoft doing that
Well,
with Xbox.
not just it came up. And
Bill Gates approved it, said.
Yeah, he was just like, hey, if Satya Nadella, the new CEO, wanted to do that, Bill Gates would be on board with it. But it doesn't make any sense for them either because unlike Sony, who has a lot of cool brands, Xbox is the only brand under the Microsoft umbrella that anyone under the age of 35
That
gives a
Zune.
shit about.
You got that Zoom.
Internet Explorer.
Yeah, IE.
I used to use Internet Explorer until like 2 years ago.
Everyone was forced to use Internet Explorer up until they got sued for
Yeah,
it.
when it came with the iteration, I guess it was like 6 or whatever that came with Windows XP was pretty good. But that was
there was definitely a
13
point in time.
years ago now.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Remember when Windows like 95 came with the Weezer Buddy Holly video installed? That was awesome.
I don't remember that. No.
Video.
My first Windows 95 computer was a Sony Vaio, ironically.
There you go.
Bringing
You
it
were
back
big on
to
the Vaio
store.
for a while.
I was.
You still got a bunch of floating around the house, don't you?
That's
Oh,
Cheryl's.
those are Toshibos.
I have Toshibas now, yeah.
Yeah.
I used Vios in high school and then Dells in college and then Toshibas in life after college. And now I have my MacBook, so I'm never going back. Number 2. Rumor has it that From Software, the creators of Demon's Souls and Dark Souls, is working on a brand new game and that the game is exclusive to PlayStation 4. It's reportedly codenamed Project Beast and appears to be in the same style and spirit as Demon's Souls and Dark Souls. Neither From nor Sony has spoken about it as of yet. Perhaps it will be revealed at E3. Looks real to me. Sounds real to me. Dark Souls was called Project Dark before it had a name. So that's a pretty... Looking at the screens and the art and stuff like that, it would be a pretty impressive fake forgery.
Yeah.
And I would assume that Sony and or From would say something at this point if it wasn't real.
You think an E3 announcement?
I think it's Demon's Souls too. And they own Demon's Souls, the name, so it would make sense for them to do something like that with From. They were very, very foolish in letting them run away to Namco. And they didn't publish Demon's Souls here either,
Atlas.
so Atlas did, so they didn't even make any money off of the phenomenon that game was, so Atlas certainly did.
Yeah.
So
I think that's why Jack Tretton left.
Yes, Jack Tretton specifically left because of
Can't believe I let From get away.
He could he wakes up in the middle of the night sweating, thinking about how he let that one get away. Number 3, NHL 15 has finally been announced and will be the series' first foray to the next-gen systems and will also be available on PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360. The game will sport a new NBC Sports Game Day presentation, including the amazing announcing of Doc Emmerich, and come with a bunch of tweaks and fixes. You can vote now on who will appear on the cover of NHL. Or at NHL.com.
Back to center, back to wing, back to center, back to wing.
Yeah.
Wide shot!
Greg
They
loves
did
Doc
this.
Emmerich.
They played it this way at the beginning of the 360 PS3 generation as well, where they didn't ship a game in 2006, I believe it was, or 5, one of the two.
Yeah, 2005 probably.
They waited to have a full year dev cycle, unlike say what Sony San Diego did with MLB the show on PS4 this year, where they were like, they took an extra month into the season to get it out, but it's out. But yeah, the last gen and this gen, EA Vancouver holding back and just giving it a full turn through the dev cycle before they go next gen with NHL, which probably makes sense because that game it does well enough every year, but it's not. Yeah. It doesn't. I don't even think it sells what the show sells.
Oh, no, I don't think so either. But it does well. And as far as I understand, I know the guys at Vancouver, they come show us the game every year, and hopefully we'll see it soon. I think we actually might have seen it last week when I
don't remember. I don't think we actually saw the game.
Oh, okay. So hopefully,
they're like, no Colin, no sale.
Yeah, hopefully, well, they know who to talk to because I obviously love hockey, and as far as I understand, they let FIFA go first specifically to learn from that game, and then take.
Well, there was also a lot of financial incentive to get FIFA on the next gen platforms as soon as possible.
Right.
So I'm excited about NHL 15. It'll be cool.
When we talk about NHL and it doesn't do show numbers, what are the numbers we're talking about? And do you know how that compares to NCAA? Because in the EA tier, of sports, it's always like NCAA was always in the basement, but then I always felt like NFL was a little bit of, or I'm sorry, NHL was a little bit.
Oh yeah.
I think NHL charts every year. Comes out on MPD.
Okay. Yeah, once in September.
Exactly. And then
great games. Don't get me wrong.
They are. My assumption is that they probably do cumulatively over the platforms like a million. Maybe.
Okay.
That might even be generous. Actually, I'm not sure it cracks 7 figures, but I don't have the numbers.
Yeah, I don't either. We don't get MPD.
Obviously, well enough it profits.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they'd stop doing it.
Yeah.
The way they stopped. Most other sports at this point.
Yeah, they're a talented group. I like those guys. And they love that I'm an Islanders fan. They think some of those guys think that's funny.
Yeah, they just know that you're a tortured soul.
Yeah.
Are you still a Columbus Blue Jackets fan?
I was never a Blue Jackets fan. I was just pulling for them. They got bounced though, so that's the end of that.
You talked about them for one show, and then you made me watch hockey for a couple days, and I never saw these guys. So
they were bounced pretty early.
All right.
Number 4, The Last of Us is getting a brand new patch 107 or 1.07, which should be available by the time you're listening to this. Will come in at 151 megs. It adds an all-new difficulty setting and comes packing nearly 50 bug fixes. It also adds new trophies for the upcoming multiplayer DLC. So the multiplayer DLC comes in 2 different waves, and each of them will have their own trophy sets. And then the new difficulty setting also has its own trophies. So 3
Correct
sets.
me if you think I'm wrong, but my guess is that the only reason to patch this game this far since its release is these are probably all fixes that are being rolled into the PS4 remaster. So they're like, well, let's just roll it back out for the PS3 version as well. While it was probably very, very low impact, low overhead for them to.
You'd think
to do
so,
this.
especially. I mean, their multiplayer. I think they still have a community, right? Naughty Dog's really great at keeping those kids going, especially with DLC coming.
Yeah,
in.
and I don't remember running into a single bug or glitch or anything when I played through that game right around launch.
Did you catch right before we came in here? Bruce Straley tweeted that for Last of Us Remastered, all difficulties are unlocked at the beginning.
No, I didn't see it, but that's awesome because that's a really super pain in the ass Naughty Dog thing to do to like lock their like they do that with Uncharted too.
Yeah,
it's
crushing. You have to play through the other ones to get to
come
it.
on, guys. You know, like I know, like by the time Uncharted 3 came out, it's like I know how to play. I have the platinum in the other two. Just let me play crushing the first time.
It's
through.
probably just an anti trade-in thing that they're doing, like as opposed to giving
make you
the
hold
veteran
on to it later.
Yeah, like make you play through it again so that you hopefully won't trade it in after you finish it once.
Yeah, I still have to platinum. My goal is to platinum The Last of Us on PS3 before it comes out on PS4. I have all the hardest trophies, the multiplayer trophies. I have them.
You just have to replay
I
the
just
game.
have to play the game.
Yeah.
Those multiplayer trophies are a pain in the ass.
Yeah, that's why I was never going to platinum it.
It took me 40 hours of online play to get those trophies. But it was fun. It was worth it. That game's fun online, and I don't like online games. But I will not talk to anyone. And The Last of Us is very communication driven. So it's hard for me to play now.
Do you think you could have done it in 20 if you would have talked to people?
No, because it has nothing to do with how good you are. It's like it's just getting through the Firefly campaign.
Is this Colin Moriarty from IGN.com?
Yeah,
You're amazing.
I shouldn't have named myself Moriarty-IGN because I really appreciate that people. I get a lot of messages, a lot of friendly messages, and people, but also people that are dicks, and it's like, man, I should have changed my name. Let me change my name, Shuhei.
Let it do it, Shuhei.
Number 5. This is an interesting one. According to Activision CEO Bobby Kotick, the company plans to ultimately spend $500 million on Destiny. It's important to note that the game hasn't and won't cost that much to develop, but the number includes marketing packaging, post-release support, and more. However, if Kotick's number is accurate, that means Destiny will be the single most expensive game ever created. That seems like an unreasonable amount of money to me.
I mean, GTA 5 was rumored to be in the $250 range, but I don't think that was with the marketing included. So I bet GTA was close. But yeah, for this game
this doesn't have
to do,
cash.
But they made $1 billion in one day on that game.
Right.
Then this game is not going to make that.
I've been saying for a while, like, Destiny. I would be worried about Destiny as long as it's taken to develop. And I'm talking about from financial aspect and what they're expecting. I don't think it's going to come out and sell gangbusters.
The thing to keep in mind with Destiny is that from the beginning they've laid out a 10-year plan for the game, and it's so all the sort of legwork that they've done to dig this $500 million hole, so to speak, now will sort of pay off in Destiny 2 and 3 in years 5 and 8. So I'm obviously Activision would not go through with this if they thought it was a money sink.
Exactly, that's a good point. Activision very very frugal. They know how to get around their money and what's going to make the money back and how to make it and keep it.
Yeah, not so frugal as ingenious in how they get their money back and their profit margins and stuff like that.
Well, frugal in the sense that they would not publish Ghostbusters because it wasn't annualizable.
And Sleeping Dogs, you're not going to make $80 billion. You're off our ledger. See ya.
Yeah, I mean, they did that with Prototype as well. And Prototype, I think, was actually profitable.
And then they buried your game Singularity because they were like, well.
Yeah, the story of that game is interesting. I agree. I don't think so. People have recently been talking a lot about Titanfall and about how did Titanfall do, right? Like Titanfall was supposed to set the world on fire and clearly didn't, but it also did really well. Like,
and that game will have, I guarantee you, that game will have a tail because there's nothing else major releasing on Xbox One up until basically Destiny in September. That game will continue to sell. It will do well.
I assume so, but I guess what people were saying was like anecdotally that these big multiplayer games that are supposed to take, Destiny is in the Activision family, but it's really supposed to take Call of Duty's fire and like get people to buy this one game or these two games a year, make Destiny or Titanfall one of those two games.
Right.
Is not, at least with Titanfall, working because there's like all this anecdotal evidence that the communities are shrinking, especially on PC already. That like it's hard to even find matches in like
a lot of cheaters on PC. That's been a problem.
And so I'm wondering if that is bad for Destiny. Because some people just like their shit, man. They like their Madden, they like their Call of Duty, and maybe they'll buy the game, but they won't spend the money or the time with it. Titanfall is a really sharp, compelling game. Destiny obviously will be on more platforms, but they have to sell like almost 20 million units to make that money back. And now I know what you're saying, like the money will be made out in the back end. They're playing the long game, but I can't see Destiny selling more than a few million copies.
Well, you remember,
know, like,
I mean, Titanfall was only on a couple platforms, 360, which they tried to make you.
It's not coming.
Yeah,
it's not.
That's not
Don't
happening. PC and Xbox One. Destiny is coming to everything but PC, so current gen and next gen. So I figure, even if you don't have a next gen system, they're going to try and hook you on 360 or PS3, and then for Destiny 2 down the road, then you're going to buy your next gen console version.
Right. Yeah, I'll be interested to see. I mean, this amount of money suggests that their marketing campaign is going to be significant.
Oh yeah,
Homefront style.
Yeah. So much bigger than that. So like you'll see it, probably during football and all sorts of stuff. So yeah, I mean they're very quiet about the game right now. I don't think anyone even really knows this game exists unless you're in the hardcore community, and they need to get everyone
it is
on board.
It is one of speaking as the previews editor of IGN, it is one of the most popular games on IGN right now, though. Anytime we do something for it, it's our readers are definitely very keen on this game.
Right, but they were about PlayStation All-Stars too.
Yeah,
like that's the problem. We have such knowledgeable fans, right? That they get what these guys did before. But like in a commercial, how do you sum that up and get it out to people?
Number 6, Sony has trademarked 2 new software title names. A few weeks
ago,
Switch? Yep. No, that's ours. A few weeks ago, the company trademarked Entwined and Killastrain. This week, trademarks for Bloodborne and Guns Up have been revealed. Sony had no comment. Sony had no comment for IGN when contacted about these new trademark
Guns
filings.
Up sounds like a bad West country song, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Guns Up.
She's gone guns up and now she's dead. Never forget her.
What was that one country song you showed me a few months ago? That was.
I show you a lot. Have you forgotten? I don't even know. That's my favorite go-to one.
I don't know.
You know that every time we talk about Knob Switch, Scott Rohde, he winks it while he's driving his car and then starts pitching it to people when they come in with a game. He's like, well, what if you call it the Knob Switch?
That's a dick joke, right?
No, it was that. It's that all these games are to the point where they just look around the room and they figure it out. And so one day I looked at a doorknob and a light switch and I went, Knob Switch.
It's a better name than Guns Up. Number 7. Giant Bomb has reported that Activision-owned studio Neversoft, the developer best known for its Tony Hawk series of skating games, has been folded into and absorbed by Infinity Ward, the Los Angeles-based studio best known for its extensive work on Activision's super popular Call of Duty franchise. Neversoft has worked on Call of Duty in the recent past as a support studio, but now it seems that's all they'll be doing. The Neversoft's name will disappear. They will be Infinity Ward themselves. I think that's sad, but it's not. Yeah, it's not surprising. Activision seems intent on ultimately killing every studio.
Well, it makes a ton of sense. They've been on Call of Duty support for a while, and Tony Hawk and Guitar Hero are dead. Even though there's a new Tony Hawk iOS game, but yeah, then those are the major franchises that Neversoft had been handling prior to this. So it's just like Raven.
It's the Raven treatment.
So sad.
And number 8. The following new games have been announced for PlayStation platforms. You ready for this, Greg?
I'm ready. Knob Switch.
2D action side-scroller Apotheon is coming to PlayStation 4. Metroidvania title Axiom Verge is coming to PlayStation 4 and Vita. Side-scrolling exploration game Chasm is coming to PlayStation 4. Don't Starve sequel Reign of Giants is coming to PlayStation 4. Open-world space game Drifter is coming to PS4 and Vita. Bizarre 2D game Scapegoat 2 is coming to PS4.
2!
Civil War-themed strategy RPG Ironclad Tactics is coming to PlayStation 4. Co-op shooter Jamestown Plus is coming to PlayStation 4. Competitive multiplayer game Nidhogg is coming to PlayStation 4. Turn-based strategy game Skulls of the Shogun Bonafide Edition is coming to PlayStation 4. The cult classic Spelunky is coming to PlayStation 4. And fast-moving competitive fighter Star Wars Just the Tip is coming to PlayStation 3 and PlayStation 4. Additionally, a reimagining of the PlayStation 2 classic Amplitude is coming to PlayStation 3 and PlayStation 4. Lots of new games.
Woo! Lots of new games. Have you played any of those?
I've looked at the videos for most of these. Ironclad Tactics
Nidhogg
looks awesome. I'm really excited about that one. That's like a Civil War strategy game.
Nidhogg against my vote was IGN's January game of the month.
I voted for it. I forget what was it up against?
Broken Age. Tim Schafer's Broken Age.
Yeah, I don't remember what I voted for in
busted.
January.
Busted, man.
What did I vote for? I don't know.
You
I don't know what
abstained,
I voted. Yeah, probably. I did play Nidhogg when we were voting for it, though, and it's fun. I can see playing that for
5 minutes.
Yeah, about 5 minutes.
Exactly.
Don't Starve sequel, or I guess it's like an add-on, is Reign of Giants will be cool. I like that game a lot.
Yeah, that was fun.
Let's see. Axiom Verge looks really cool. This is a Metroidvania game where you use like old school glitches like that you would see in a game, like stutter or freeze framing and stuff like that, to like get through the game.
Yeah.
So I think that's actually kind of neat. Yeah. What else? Apotheon, when I looked at it, looks like it has an aesthetic style kind of like Guacamelee.
I like Guacamelee.
It's not like the art style, but like the colors and like the way they pop looks a lot like that game. Yeah, Drifter sounds cool. It's like a space game, like an open world space game.
That sounds real cool.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't know. These are all indie games.
All right.
So,
And they're going to be out soon, one day, maybe?
one day, yeah. I
Okay.
don't know.
If you are an Xbox guy, we are finally getting
Shut
one
your
of the
whore
indie
mouth.
games.
No, I'm kidding. What do you get?
Super Time Force is finally coming out, which
Super
looks
Time
so
Force is
good.
dope, yeah.
Yeah.
Is that out this
Kathy
week?
game. I believe it's next week, if
Okay.
I remember correctly. So 360 and Xbox One. So
Yeah.
been waiting for that one for a long
Yeah,
time.
I've played that at a lot of events, and it is awesome looking. I can't
Yeah.
wait to get it at home. Of course, that's not out now. So
It is
instead, let's check in on the Andrew Goldfarb Memorial list of upcoming PlayStation software on all 3
Segue.
platforms by the IGN editors. Dun, 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 dun. He's dead.
End scene.
He's dead. Goldfarb's dead.
PlayStation 3.
Yeah.
Bound by Flame is available digitally. It'll be out at retail next week. Hauki. Let's see.
You made that up.
Stones of the Shinigami is available digitally and at retail. I have no idea what that game is, and I usually am up on this Japanese stuff. Sports Friends comes out digitally, and Titan Attacks comes out digitally. I'm playing Titan Attacks now. It's kind of like Space Invaders. It's kind of cool, but it seems very basic.
Yeah.
On PlayStation 4, Bound by Flame, same thing digitally this week, retail next week. MLB 14 The Show, which we will talk about in a moment, comes out at retail and digitally on PlayStation 4. It's already available on Vita and PS3. Sports Friends is available digitally. Stick It to the Man is available digitally. That's also on PS3 and Vita. Titan Attacks is available digitally. And by the way, it's Titan's Attacks is cross-buy on all 3 platforms.
Woo!
Vita
By the
Borderlands 2 is available digitally only if you buy the PlayStation Slim.
What?
So
Vita
off
Slim.
the voucher pack.
Yeah.
Next week it's
Next
wide.
week it'll be available for everybody.
All right.
Real quick, we got a bunch of kids who wrote in to us and said, bought the Vita Slim package, don't care about Borderlands. Here's my code. Follow
That's
me
funny that
on
you would
Twitter, and we'll give them away.
Okay, cool. Broken Sword 5, The Serpent's Curse, comes out digitally. It's an adventure game. Football Manager Classic 2014 comes out digitally, and just to be clear, that is football in the
Soccer.
European sense.
Football.
God of War Collection randomly came out, and it's available at retail and digitally for $30. And Titan Attacks
randomly came out. Just the fact they didn't
because
promote
they've been
it.
talking about that forever. And
Yeah,
then just
now
kinda,
it's finally here.
They just kind of pooped it out. And then Titan Attacks is available digitally. So lots of new games on all the platforms, on all 3 platforms.
By the IGN. Here's what I want to know before we jump to topic of the week, which of course is MLB The Show, and why Ryan McCaffrey's here. Borderlands.
Yes.
When did we get codes for Borderlands?
Yesterday.
That's not good.
No.
Okay. They dropped it while you were gone. I don't know if you caught the news. They've been talking about 4 players. Now it's down to 2 players now.
Yeah. So it's interesting because we had that exclusive hands-on preview and the video preview, and the game, like I said, it's in better shape than when I played it at GDC, but not running quite as well. Like they said, they're in like the 27 to 32 frames per second kind of thing. They had to make some exceptions with enemy count. They had to make some exceptions with draw distance. They had to make some exceptions with even enemies explode and disappear now instead of like falling and ragdolling.
Which I don't care about.
Yeah, so I'm not sure what the problem is because the game to me didn't seem like abysmal, like where it was going to be like critically panned.
Yeah.
With that said, like if the game is going to be in the, and I'm not saying it's going to be, but if the game's going to be in the 6 range, then maybe they hold it. But to me, it seems like a pretty competent first-person shooter on Vita. It's not Killzone.
Yeah.
But it's certainly better than Resistance or Call of Duty.
I think it would just be, right, the fact that they don't want to... I mean, there's so many people, I'm sure, according to, just anecdotal evidence of people tweeting me photos of them buying the bundle or getting it in the mail or whatever. It seems like a lot of people were waiting for this bundle, and I guess if we would have had reviews before that are sub 8.5, then people are going to be like, I don't know if I need it or I want it. Or
Now, here's the greater mystery to me.
Here comes the greater mystery, Ryan.
Borderlands has, like, cachet, obviously. Borderlands 2 has sold many millions of copies, but with PlayStation gamers or people on the fence, it would have made more sense for them to include God of War, and because it comes out today, and let Borderlands 2 kind of just sit on the shelf and release it by itself when it was ready, if they felt like they needed more time. And obviously, you can't go back. They announced this when I was in Santa Monica in January or February. But like God of War would have been a smart game to release with the Vita for free.
You think it would have been?
Yeah.
Because but here's my thing: is you said it yourself. I think that God of War has more cachet with the PlayStation audience. I think the hardcore PlayStation audience has already bought a Vita.
I don't know about that because there's only 8 or 9 million of them sold, and there's 75 million.
Well, then they
PS3s.
all listen to this show though, because they tweet in about how much they love their Vita and what game should they buy on their Vita.
I just feel like it was. I understand why you include Borderlands 2. You get the hardcore gamer that cachet, but I don't think that's going to sell the system to normal people that need to buy the system. God of War is a. God of War.
I
3
agree with
sell.
Greg. I actually think Borderlands has a reach outside of the normal PlayStation crowd, where it's hey, I love Borderlands on my PS3. What I can, because 3DS, this game would of course never appear. So it's like, what I can get I've heard about this Vita thing, and whoa, I can play Borderlands on it.
Yeah,
now?
I mean,
Awesome.
you figure, it's trying to get that person in. Like, this is like the proof. Right, in Sony's mind, if everything worked great, of like, here's Borderlands. You can take your Borderlands save from your PS3 to this, back and forth, go live, go play. Your gaming experience never has to end.
Yeah, but I think that's part of the problem, and I think we've talked about this before, is that if Borderlands 2 doesn't shake out in such a way, then it's just another Call of Duty.
Right.
It doesn't matter that it's not as bad as Call of Duty. Like, Call of Duty was sold like 600,000 or 700,000 copies or something on Vita.
Sure.
On name alone.
Yeah, exactly. But no one actually liked it. And like, you have to include, like, God of War will work, and it's a PS2 game, like, and it will play well, and it won't, like, they have to release games bundled with these systems that work. Like, I don't understand why Uncharted isn't like one of these games, or
Yeah. But, I mean,
I don't know. It's a huge risk because
Sure.
like the last time they bundled a game prominently with a system was a shooter, and it sold systems, but it also backfires in the back end because everyone's like, this is what the Vita. If you're just a dude, it's like, what's the Vita? Or I bought the Vita. I'm like, this is Call of Duty on the Vita. Are you fucking kidding me?
Right.
Like.
But I think, I understand what you're saying, right? Especially with Call of Duty as the example. But I think with the Borderlands example, by getting somebody who likes Borderlands or understands Borderlands or is interested in, cross save or whatever, you get them in, they play it, the game's, whatever. It's not great, we'll guess. It's below an 8. Then they're going to be like, wow, that sucks, but I have this system now, and I also have PlayStation Plus I've been using forever, but like, it's your foot in the door. Like,
right.
that's what I feel like they need right now, is to get the system. Because we always talk about it. Once you start using the Vita and playing the Vita, you're like, this thing's cool.
Killer apps, sadly, don't really exist on many platforms anymore.
Right.
I mean, or at least they haven't in a while. So, yeah, I mean, does Vita? Would you say Vita has a killer app that they should bundle? That's like, you play this game, you just have to have the system to play this game.
Well, I often say, I'm not sure if I would call it a killer app in the sense that it's like you must play it, but I still think Uncharted is the most console quality game on the system, and that's a launch game.
Sure.
That's because Bend is a good studio, but also because they had time to make the game, unlike Nihilistic with their games. I don't know. What I'm most interested in is to see how it sells, because the rumor last month was that the Vita sold 10,000 units in North America, which is fucking terrible.
Yeah.
Terrible. That's like dead, Now, the Slim has already been out in Europe for a while, and I'm not sure how it's selling there. Vita's actually doing really well in Japan now, so it can live again. It's never going to be the PSP or anything close to it, but it needs, like, Slim needs to work, and so like they need to think very carefully about how they do this, because they don't have another revision in them unless this works. And if you want Vita to die in two years and you keep including games that are not Uncharted quality with it, the proof has to be in the pudding.
Right.
Is there anything coming up at the holidays for Vita that they could bundle then?
No, I mean, there's the only retail games that are coming out other than what Sony might be doing after Borderlands, which we don't know, is like Soul Sacrifice Delta and Freedom Wars, which looks awesome, but Freedom Wars is a nerdy game, just like Soul Sacrifice.
No big first party Vita games?
No.
Ugh, that's
talking
telling.
About. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
you hope at E3, right? They're like, and here's Infamous. And you're like,
yeah, I hope.
But like the last 4 years, I've been saying that.
I've said to Greg before, I feel it in my gut that like Infamous will be on Vita, but it won't be by Sucker Punch.
Right. Sure. Thanks a lot, Nate Fox.
But yeah, nothing big. I mean, but the Japanese studios are going to continue to support the system, and they keep supporting the system, which is a good sign that, Namco, for instance, bringing Tales over and doing their thing, and NIS, releasing another Danganronpa and all that, like, they're making money on Vita. So it's just a matter of, how much money you want to make and how much money it costs you to bring these games over. And also, their alliance with these Japanese studios selling Vita games is just more way for those Japanese studios to make more money. So it's complicated, but Vita gamers buy games. The attach rate on Vita is much higher than it is on the consoles. And that's good news, I guess, for people that are making Vita games.
All right. Topic of the week. Ryan, you reviewed all the MLB The Show.
I did. I
baseball
came
games.
dressed for the part today. I wore my Diamondbacks little dugout shirt here.
They're having a rough year, huh?
We all have our crosses to bear. You have your Islanders. I have my Diamondbacks. Yeah. I'm actually so if, you guys are one of the #1 podcasts on the internet. # fire Kevin Towers, the inept general manager of my Arizona Diamondbacks. We need him out the door as soon as possible so that we can get a good GM in there to do what we now have to rebuild the team, because Towers ruined everything. All the promising young talent,
the youth,
is gone. It's been traded away for gritty veterans, guys that'll play through injuries and crash into walls and not really be able to hit, field, or pitch.
Those are essential skills.
Those are big parts of baseball.
Of baseball.
Sounds like the only thing you got is catcher. That sounds like you got a good catcher.
Yeah. He's got a fat contract.
All right, so how did MLB The Show shake out this year?
So on PS4, it is. They really did a nice job. It is not just like a file save as in 1080p because of course the show on PS3 they actually recommend you run it in 720p. If you try to run MLB in 1080p, the game actually tells you probably don't want to
do this.
Not a good idea. So yeah, PS4 version, same exact game, full feature parity, which is good and bad. It is not like a stripped down. There's no road to the show or there's no this or no. It's all there, but that's also the other side of that coin as well. There's nothing new, and all the same sort of issues remain. Online issue being the bugaboo year after year after year.
Yeah,
with that
why
game.
can't they fix the online play?
I don't know. I mean, you would think all sports games require pretty precise input, but baseball is all about timing. Whether in both, the pitching, of course, the pitching mechanic, whichever of the several choices that the show gives you.
Sure.
They're all timing based, and of course, hitting is super timing based. 1 millisecond different, and you might foul a ball off as opposed to shoot something down the line for a double. So. It's incredibly gorgeous, but a lot of people, I'm getting a lot of shrapnel on Twitter. Because I gave it the same score.
Sure.
I did not feel the game warranted a different score, and that's because we don't give, it's prettier, but it's also on an exponentially more powerful system. Like, yes, it looks better than the PS3 version, but it's on a way better console. There's no next gen bump for prettier. We didn't do it with Assassin's Creed, which looks way better on PS4 than on PS3, or anything else. The game is not fundamentally different. I mean, you look at the closest analog is, which I also reviewed, was NBA 2K14, which actually is a completely different game on PS4 than it is on PS3, with different game modes, and so it got its own review. And I actually, even though it looks incredible, that is arguably, along with the show and Infamous, probably the best-looking games on the PS4 so far. And I actually gave NBA 2K14 a lower score on PS4 than on PS3 because there's less in it, and it's got its own issues. But this is the same game, PS3, PS4.
You can bring your save over, right? If you were playing on PS3, that's cool.
Yeah, cross save, which is great
between all three, right?
Yeah,
so
all three.
Vita, PS3, and PS4. That's
so a lot of people mad at me because oh my god, it looks so incredible. How can you still only give it an 8.1? Well, because it's the same thing.
Yeah.
It's just it's on a new system, and you should expect more from that new system. I mean, they did such a good job visually though in the short amount of time they had. I mean. I talked to one of the guys from Sony San Diego at a preview event about a month or so back, and he said, he's like, yeah, man, it was really tough because if a lot of people don't know, sports game developers arguably have the most difficult job in all of gaming because they have some job security, like, okay, we're going to keep putting out this game every year, we're probably not going to get shut down. They have what amount to 9-month development cycles. 9 months to make the game, because the final 3 months, it's basically testing, certification, and then the game is out. So and then it ships.
And hopefully they fuck off for a couple weeks to
right,
to
and then it's fix any glaring issues that they couldn't get any major day one updates or what have you that need to be done, and then they go right back into the cycle again. So every sports game developer really has to pick their battles very carefully from year to year. Like they've all got a huge list of, man, we'd love to do this and this and this, and then they have to look at it and go, well, we have this much time.
Yep.
So we can only do items 1 and 4 on here. We're going to have to put 2 and 3 on the back burner for another year. So what Sony San Diego has done in such a short amount of time, getting this game out here in the beginning of May, it does look great. They did add a few animations. There are a few little visual things, but the main complaints with the PS4 version for me are the load times are a problem on PS3, even with the optional 10 gig install. There's the mandatory 5 gig install. Even with the 10 gig, loading times are still rough. There's no option. You have to install the whole game, of course, on PS4, and the loading times are just atrocious.
Really?
They're eternal. So that's a significant problem. And then, as good as the game looks and as great as the animations are, some of the cutaway things, like maybe a batter's just stepping out of the box and just doing a little. I'm stepping away from the mic. My apologies. I'm a better host than this.
Don't worry.
God, better than this.
They're like, yeah. So just whether there's like a little quick cutscene animation, like just a guy taking a practice swing or something before you get back to gameplay, those tend to have noticeable frame rate problems. Not like super chuggy, but enough to take you out of it. Like, oh, that's kind of dragging a little bit from this super smooth experience that I'm usually getting. So, yeah, great game. I know it's a lot of the more hilarious Twitter comments I've gotten are, well, that I'm an Xbox guy, so I shouldn't be allowed to review a Sony game.
Why didn't Colin step in to stop you?
Because I only play games on one system. I don't, of course, which obviously that's sarcasm, folks.
Mm-hmm.
I play games on everything, just like you guys do. Mm-hmm. But also, yeah, that I'm a sleeper agent sent in by Microsoft to
ruin it.
Yeah, how dare I come in and give this baseball game literally a great score. 8.1 means great on the IGN scale.
I don't play anything below an 8.2.
So yeah, that's kind of the extended version of how I came to evaluate the PS4 version of the show.
Real quick before we move on to questions, I guess, because we have questions for Ryan, I assume.
We got one, yeah.
One. I want to reiterate and kind of reinforce what Ryan was saying about Sony San Diego and generally the sports studios. I think that a lot of people give the quote unquote lazy developer shit to a lot of these guys and like really don't understand the nature of game development at all when you say that, and don't understand the nature of sports development, like Ryan was saying with these short dev cycles. I've been to Sony San Diego, and to give you an idea of how committed and how crazy those guys are. By the way, a lot of those guys are ex baseball players from college and from the minors. A lot of them, or a few of them, were even scouts in the MLB, and so like they know the game. But the producer of the game has a fucking mattress on the ground in his office because he sleeps there all the time. So I remember walking in and being like, "What?" Like it was like, it was like there was like couches everywhere and blankets, and there was a mattress or something. I was like, it was like, wow. And I was down there talking to Christian Phillips, a friend of ours who runs that studio. You can find him on Twitter, and they're just crazy dedicated. I feel like Naughty Dog, obviously great studio, Sony Santa Monica. These are great studios, but like I think the unsung hero in the first party family for Sony is actually Sony San Diego, because these guys don't have the luxury of spending more than a year on a game. So give them props.
Absolutely.
Like for sure, because they're doing a nice job, and it's not easy to make sports games. Ask 2K how easy it is to make a baseball game, So
well, and you even say EA, FIFA's a great series, NHL a great series. Those games are done out of EA Vancouver in Canada, and it's largely the same core teams that work on those year to year. But I certainly in my time covering this industry, guys do move around. Like the NHL producer might move over to to FIFA, or they do share. Sony San Diego, that's all they do is baseball. So they are 100% focused on that all the time, and I think that's definitely a part of the reason that series is so good,
and why it's like the dominant force, why it's run every other show out of business.
Yeah,
well, nobody wants to screw with them.
It's astounding that it really is the only simulation baseball game left. I mean, I know that you can make money. I mean, the show makes money. I'm sure EA has looked into bringing back MVP baseball, and they've probably just determined that it probably wouldn't make them enough money to make it worth their while, which is really upsetting for Xbox players. We have nothing. The RBI Baseball shipped, which is a garbage downloadable arcade baseball game that's just riddled with flaws.
What I would love is for a game. I was on NVC a couple weeks ago talking about underrated NES games, and one of my favorite NES games was Baseball Stars. I don't even remember that game. It was way, way, way ahead of its time, like extraordinarily ahead of its time, like probably by 7 or 8 years.
Is this the one you kept the notebook on?
No, I didn't have to do that because
this is the first one that did it for you.
Yeah, because it kept your stats. You paid your players. You could trade them. You could make your own teams, make your own play. It was unbelievable. It would be funny to have that, like a really quality, not licensed baseball game come out that was still really fun to play because of the immersive simulation qualities of it. Very similar to what was it, All Pro Football? Remember that
where they signed the
like the Legends
separately.
And that game obviously bombed. They only did one of them, but that game was actually really good. Yeah. And if you could just position it in such a way, charge a certain amount of money for it and say like it's not licensed, but it's fun and it's deep. I think that would be really cool. Because the MLB license is going to cost money. The show has it all locked down, and you have to wonder if the show will eventually atrophy because they have no competition, because they're certainly not above that. I mean, that's what happened with Madden. So, not that you cut corners intentionally, but you don't have to watch your back.
Yeah,
and I think watching your back's really
I do
important.
wonder if the existence and continued success of the show is actually a reason why there's no MVP baseball that's back, because maybe EA took a look at it and went, okay, well, yeah, we'd sell well on Xbox, obviously, but boy, I don't think we'd sell much of anything on PlayStation because the show has this on lockdown.
Yeah, I wonder.
Plus, I mean, the amount of time to invest to start from scratch and get up to 100 miles per hour like the show goes at.
Well, that's the thing. If they were going to do it, they would have. I think we would have heard about it already. I mean, unless they're going to come out and surprise me. I mean, if it could happen at E3 this year, it's not like this would be the time. Like, you'd have to announce, oh, hey, we're getting back into baseball. We've been working on a thing for 2 years. We'll have it out for next year's baseball season. If EA doesn't announce anything this year, it's almost certainly not happening.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I mean, it's certainly a potential boon for Sony, but I'd like to see some competition get in the field and try to do some different things. And
MVP was, I think it's still the best baseball. MVP Baseball 2005. Baseball fans know what I'm talking about. And with all full respect to the show, I think MVP 05 was the best baseball game ever made.
And that was around the time right before the show started coming out, so it was like they never got to go head-to-head for a prolonged period of time. Right. And then, obviously, the show put 2K away. 2K12 was the last baseball game, right?
Yeah, they skipped it. Wait. Did they skip last year, or did they crap out that file save as version last year? I don't quite remember.
Yeah, it was either last year or the year before when they did that.
Yeah.
But I'm curious to see how that game sold on PS3, towards your point about how a new MVP baseball from EA would sell on PS3.
So I used to have, in my old job, I actually had access. I guess I can talk about this now, because who cares? But I had access to the full NPD list, which is not a public document.
Right, you pay lots of money for that.
And back in the day, yes, the show I'd see on the show on PS3, and then MLB 2K on PS3. And it was, we're talking exponential difference. It was, if you had a PlayStation, you bought the show. If you bought a baseball game, you did not buy MLB 2K. But the game would, 2K would do well on Xbox, obviously. But yeah, it was
interesting.
The difference was night and day. And one final thing, Greg, not to drag this segment on for too long.
Topic of the week. Take your time.
I've had some questions on Twitter. From Xbox fans. Should I buy a PlayStation 4 for the show? Should that be? And
that was George's question.
Oh, well, there you go. I'm getting ahead of you. And I would say, not only are there plenty of other great PS4. I mean, even if you end up doing most of your multi-platform gaming on Xbox, whether it's because of your friends play on live or what have you, but there'll be plenty of great Sony exclusives. Uncharted and everything else coming up. But just for the show, I think if you bought a PS4 now for $400, I don't think you'd regret that purchase playing the show for the next 5, 6, 7, 8 years. So I think, yeah. I mean, if you're a dedicated baseball fan, I'm not saying run out and buy a PS4 just for the show. I'm not saying that. But if you're a dedicated enough baseball fan and you look at it long term,
you're talking about the franchise, not about just the
franchise.
iteration.
Yeah,
okay.
I don't think you would regret buying a PS4 largely to play MLB The Show on every year.
And now E3, they're going to come out and be like, "Here's more Microsoft, and here's our exclusive baseball game." And
That's not. I can virtually promise you that's not happening. They did that once.
Yeah.
Microsoft made a baseball game called MLB Inside Pitch, and then you guys dig into your history and remember that originally EA, when things first started going online, EA had all their sports games online on PlayStation Network and not on Xbox Live because they were just very embedded with Sony back then. It's PlayStation 2 era. And when Microsoft finally convinced EA to bring all their sports games to Xbox Live, there almost certainly was an under the table agreement that Microsoft was going to back out of sport because they had a football game. They had a baseball game, they had a basketball game called Inside Drive, and then they had Lynx Golf, which they'd bought recently, and they had Topspin. And Microsoft walked away from all of that. They had the XSN, Xbox Sports Network, where it was all like they were going to do all these like stats on the web. You could go on their website and check all your stuff. And they quietly shut all of that down as soon as EA came online.
Yeah, I'm sure that's not a coincidence. One last question about MLB.
Yes.
This was the first year where you could bring your saves from the previous years over, right? So you were able to import from 13 to 14?
I don't remember that part. If it was, I know it's this. They finally had cross, because last year you could only do like home run derby across Vita and PS3, but this year it's cross save. I don't remember if you can import. I know they
like Road to the Show stuff. I think it was.
I think it's new this year where you can. This year you'll be able to import for future years.
Oh, okay, that's probably what it is.
That's right.
If I remember correctly. Yeah.
Okay, cool. I know that's a big thing and people really complain about. I think that shit sucks too when I do on NHL when I create a player and then you're just kind of stranded.
The best was when you the parity between the EA football games. When I had NCAA, I'd have a guy build up for 4 years and then I could bring him over to Madden and have a Madden career with him. I loved that one.
Yeah, it's very neat.
Raphael writes into Beyond at IGN.com just like you can and says, "Hello, Beyond crew.
Hello.
You guys can't imagine how excited I am that Amplitude is back. The game was perfection back in the day, and with the first release, screens make it look more Wipeout-ish. That said, is it okay for Harmonix to kickstart the game? Isn't this a Sony IP?
Here we go.
Shouldn't they just fund it? Makes me think Harmonix really wanted to do it, but didn't want to take the risk. While Sony didn't want to do it at all, but said, if you can pay for it, go ahead. Your thoughts?
Does that question come from Colin M. in
San
San Francisco, California?
The senator from Long Island has the floor.
No, I don't think it's okay, but I mean, we've been down this road a million times, right? Like, I think especially for big developers, established developers like Harmonix, even though they're kind of a shadow of what they were maybe a few years ago, it's wrong. It's just inherently wrong for them to kickstart these games. They can get capital on the private capital market. They can find an investor or an angel of some sort to give them the money they need. And I don't think it's right that these companies kickstart these games. I understand if you want the game, like, more power to you. I'm not saying you shouldn't kickstart games. I'm just saying that, like, they're doing it with you incur all of the risk. They incur none of the risk. You know, they are like every dollar they make is going to be profit. You know, like because they didn't pay for the game's development, so they got all the money up front. So when people say it's like a glorified pre-order, it is, except for the fact that, you know, a pre-order usually comes for a game that's been in development for a few years, that's being published and supported by another company, and I just think it's unsavory. I mean, that's just where I stand on it,
right.
Especially for big companies like this. And when it comes to it's so weird and sordid because Sony does own that name, so like Sony has to endorse this. But then if they only need $750,000, like, you don't believe in the game that much that you won't give them $750,000. That's nothing. You know, God of War costs like what, $50 million or something to make. It's like, that's nothing. That's like no money. Like, you don't even think you'll make that back? So
I don't know if it's that right as much as, like, I think this is a sticky situation that Sony does own the IP, right? So they have this. Harmonix wants to make it because, like, fans never shut up about it. Right. People like me and Mitch talk about it all the fucking time. And so they understand that, but Sony has their books and ledgers and everything else they have to keep straight, right? You know, I majored in business at one point.
What, $1.2 billion?
Yeah, and so they have their plan for the next few years. So maybe, I mean, yes, you know, $700,000 for them is a drop in the bucket, but it's a drop in the bucket that they didn't plan for right now. And I thought it was interesting. Mitch wrote a story. You know, he talked to John Drake about how this happened, and it started with an IM to Adam Boyes, right? It was like, we want to do this as a passion project, and then it just went from there and got really quickly to this point where now it is a possibility.
Yeah, I don't inherently disagree with you, Colin. I certainly don't feel as strongly. For me, it just comes down to, with Kickstarter, I know you're coming at it from a much deeper perspective, and that's a sound thing to do. But for me, it's, you know, the Kickstarter, it's very clear up front what you know that you are taking the risk of, if you back it for $20 or $40, you know that maybe you're not going to see that, and you know that you're not going to profit off the back of it. I think if there's nothing shady about it, there, you know, I think the expectations are laid out up front. So that's where I just have no problem with Kickstarter. So it's like, you know, if you have those objections, then, you know, you don't have to back it. But, you know, if you are psyched for it, jump in. Yeah, I agree. I mean, to be clear, like, my most anticipated game of the year is Shovel Knight. That's a Kickstarter game,
right? Yeah.
But I didn't support it. I'll be happy to buy it. Yeah. When it comes out.
And it's the same thing when Mighty Number 9 was announced, which is by Inafune. It was my favorite. Mega Man 3 is my favorite game of all time. Everyone's like, "You're going to break now." And I'm like, "No, I won't. I'm not supporting that game. Like, I'll buy it when it comes out. I'm not. I will
you
be
want to support
happy.
the traditional method,
Right? Exactly. And it's not that the traditional method is like this untouchable thing. Obviously, the traditional method of having a publisher has largely disappeared for indie games, especially on PlayStation, where they can self-publish. And kind of get away with cutting out the middleman or whatever. And I understand that these situations are rife with risk. And I have no problem with these games being made. I have no problem with people paying for them ahead of time, and they know what they're getting into, and that's totally great. To me, it's like everyone always says, like, this is free market capitalism, and I'm like, no, it's not. It's a free market, but it's not capitalism. That's not capitalism, and that's donations being given to people that then use your money to make a game and then keep everything that comes from it.
But would you rather a publisher take a huge cut of that through a traditionally, or would you rather your money go straight to the developer?
I think that
we have an industry where big name developers are closing left and right. It's a really difficult industry. Is this a good thing to have your effectively your pre-order money go 100% to the developer rather than 50% of it to Activision or somebody?
Sure, but like I'm not so worried in the traditional sense where the money ends up that I give them. What I'm interested in is when you pay for a game in its pre-production stage or even pre-production stage, you don't know what you're going to get at the back end. And I like the idea of saying, like, okay, like this game's announced 2 years before it comes out, Game X. Publisher Y is publishing the game. We see more and more of it. It sounds really promising. The more you see of it, this game's not really shaping out. This game's not really shaking out. And then the reviews come out. It gets like a 5 or a 6. You're not interested in buying anymore. Well, that's fine. You didn't lose anything.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like the publisher lost the money. That's their problem. You know? And like to me, that is actually pro-consumer and safeguards the consumer against making bad investments. Now, I'm not saying that like people don't have the right to do with their money what they want, because that is what the situation is. And again, it is free market. Like to say like, do what you want with your money. We want your money. We have this product. We'll give you the product in return. I just don't have it. Like what happened with Oculus was a great example, like the perfect example of why this is bullshit. And when that happened, I was like, I told you guys. They kickstarted. They had an angel investor that probably gave them like a couple $1 million. Then they went on Kickstarter and they raised like $16 or $20 million, whatever it was. Then they used that money to make proof of concept that encouraged other investors to come. Then those investors sold the thing that was kickstarted and made $2 billion. Like to me, I'm like, wow, that like when I read that, I was like, that's fucked up. Like they basically just abused that system to make a ton of money. And it was because games don't scale to the level that Oculus and hardware often scale to. You're not going to see that kind of thing often happen, but publishers do step in to kickstarted games and they don't assume the risk. You know what I mean? Or Kickstarters fail and then publishers go and save them, but
right.
But it's already been proven. So this safeguards publishers. I don't think it safeguards developers, because developers are going to make their games regardless. They don't have to have a publisher. They can publish it themselves. They can find capital themselves. So I think that the issue is multifaceted and very complicated. And I vacillated a little bit on how I feel about it in terms of like my visceral anger about it, which I used to have like real, like I used to be like really mad about Kickstarter. Now I'm like, whatever, if you want to do what you want to do, but it's also telling and illustrating its own story as time goes on, that a lot of these projects are failing, people are disappearing with the money, and things like Oculus happen where they just make a shitload of money based on your own money being, proof of concepted. So it's a complicated issue, but I hope people understand where I'm coming from when I say that. I want these games to be made. I want people to enjoy good games, and I want the developers to make money.
I don't know. Yeah, see, for me, and I think we were tweeting back and forth about this at the time. It's you're not an investor when you donate to the Oculus Kickstarter, and Facebook buying it for $2 billion just means you're going to get you went from maybe a 50% chance of ever seeing the product that you backed being made to like a 98% chance, and it's probably going to be even better than you can imagine because they have the full muscle of Facebook supporting them. So when I donate my $100 or whatever it is to Oculus, which I mean I didn't, but just in a hypothetical example, it's I thinking, wow, a really cool VR headset, the kind of thing we've dreamt about for years and years and years, going back to when those old VR setups would happen in the mall, with the pods, and you put on the helmet and you hold the joystick thing. It's like, wow, a real cool one in my home. Like, yeah, I'm willing to, I'm going to put my $100 in and hope that I get a headset, and hope that I get one in time. And then, oh, wow, they got bought for $2 billion by Facebook. John Carmack's running the whole thing. I'm going to get this product, and it's going to be amazing now. And I helped make that happen.
See, I'm in your camp with it, and I that's my same thing, right? If I'm donating, like I donated to Amplitude, right? Like I'm donating because I want that product and I want those people to succeed. And so I know the risks that maybe if it, again, hypothetically, if I had donated to Oculus, they got by Facebook, that would have been like, awesome for you guys. I did that. But then there were these people, right, who flipped out at that announcement of now Facebook's going to ruin it and blah, blah, blah. And I never would have donated if I knew that. Well, it's like,
but it's not only that.
Spoilers, you should have known that.
But people weren't. I mean, there were people that were upset that Facebook specifically acquired Oculus, but that wasn't what people were mad about. What people were mad about was saying, like, the spirit of what we were trying to do was anti-establishment, and that we were giving you money to create a proof of concept, not to convince other investors to give you money and then blow up your company and walk away. You know, like,
yeah, I understand.
And so, like, that is the problem, I think. In the realist sense, it's not the product, it's not the idea, it's not like, because there are games there's so much shit on Kickstarter where I'm like, I would totally buy this.
Yeah,
it's just the order of operations that I have a problem with. That's it. You know, like, and I mean, the story hasn't changed. We have a conversation with Colin about this. We've talked about this on Podcast Beyond a million times. The story really hasn't changed. It's just, you know, I just kind of wonder where crowdsourcing is going. And I know that, you know, the idea that I've had already exists in some form, which is to say, like, sell shares of your product. Like, if you really believe in your game, like, if you need $100,000, just say we need 20 people to give us $5,000, and you will we will own 50% of the game. You will each own your own 5% of the game, and then we will split the profits. If that shit existed, I'd give money to all sorts of games. You know, because I'd be like, fuck, you know, like Mighty Number 9 is going to be a huge game. You know,
well, and blew away its Kickstarter goals,
right?
Yeah, oh yeah, I know, and it's gonna be on Vita, which is unbelievable. And it was like, and it was
nothing's on Vita,
and it's like I would have given, you know, if Inafune was like $20,000 gets you, 4% or something like that, I'd be like, okay, you know, like, but like it's, I just have an inherent problem with it because I don't want people. Free market capitalism is getting rich or succeeding based on taking risks. That's the whole point, you know, and that's what I have in it. That's all I take issue with. So, you know, I wish these games well. I wish Amplitude well. Amplitude is certainly going to be just fine by the looks of it, by the first day that they've, you know, accrued, you know, X amount of money. But I just wonder what it says about the market where you can't find an investor.
Right.
And I think there's a lot of shit on Kickstarter that the market doesn't want.
Right. But remember, I mean, we're dragging this on more, Greg.
This is we're a conversational podcast.
But publishers are becoming so much more risk averse. We're seeing it. I mean,
true.
The middle class of gaming is gone.
Yeah.
The great games that existed in the PlayStation 2 original Xbox era, some of my favorite games, I mean, there's a Japanese game that Namco did for Xbox. It was an exclusive called Breakdown. It was this first person. I don't know if you get. Looks on your faces tell me you guys didn't play this game. But
no, I don't either.
It was a almost pre-Mirror's Edge-esque, like completely committed to first person science fiction story. It was basically a melee game, first person melee game. Where you just wake up mysteriously, you eat a burger and then vomit it up immediately, all in first.
Just like me.
Go look it up on YouTube, trust me. But just this incredible science fiction game. But it's the kind of game where today that would never get greenlit.
Sure,
there is no middle class of games left. Sadly, much like our own country, we have the one person. We have the super haves and the super have nots. You got all these. Look at PlayStation 4. You've got these super indie titles, which are great. But then you've got these super AAAs like Infamous. Right. You have nothing in between anymore.
There's no more THQ. THQ isn't here to publish the mid-tier games.
That's part of it, yeah. But yeah, and I feel like, you know, Kickstarter offers a chance to, you know, in a risk-averse publisher environment, to get some of these games made that probably would never, that obviously would, because, of course, every game that's on Kickstarter, they've obviously pitched it. And most or all publishers have turned it down or said, well, I'm not so sure. So, you know, I think it's a chance to get some games made that we wouldn't ordinarily have had a chance to get made.
That's true. That's a good point. I also think it's a control issue too. I think publishers, a lot of these guys don't want publishers in their shit anymore.
Mm-hmm. That's very true.
And that, like, publishers adversely affect games often with the decisions
like
that
movie
they make.
studios.
Exactly.
Right.
So I think that's a totally legitimate qualm, you know, to remove the middleman.
Yep.
But you don't need a publisher to have money. So you just need someone with money.
But this is an easy way to do it with no risk.
Move on.
Alec writes into beyond.ign.com just like you can. It says Beyond.
Beyond.
Last week, reader Jamesy wrote in about JRPGs to play on the Vita. I've been a fan of Beyond for about a year now, and I gave Persona 4 and Ni no Kuni a serious effort based upon your fervent ravings to their quality. Don't get me wrong, I think they were very good games, but I gave up after about 10 to 15 hours because I felt overwhelmed. Then, this little gem...
The nature of the JRPG.
Exactly. Called Child of Light comes out last week, and I finished it last night. And oh man, what a great experience that was. I'm already getting excited for New Game Plus. Do you guys consider Child of Light a JRPG, since it seems to be made by a bunch of French guys? And, if so, how do you think it compares to games like Persona 4 and Ni no Kuni? Alec.
It is not a JRPG by literal definition, but it is a JRPG styled game, and it's an excellent game. I don't
You've
know.
been playing it, right? You love it. Have you played it?
I haven't had a chance to check it out yet.
Yeah,
it's
me
on
neither.
my list.
I watched Vince's video review and was like, "Yup, this looks amazing." And then when he said 10 to 15 hours of gameplay, I was like, "Yes, awesome," because that was my big turnoff of like, do I have another long RPG?
Part of the
right
appeal
now?
of South Park too,
Yeah,
right?
right,
It's like
right.
12 hours, 12 amazing hours, and I'm out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still think South Park is the best game of the year, and
I'm with you.
And I wonder. I'm still floored when I think about how much I love that game, like how good that game was. And Child of Light is a close second for me. Danganronpa is my third favorite game.
Gotta play that more golf.
Everyone's like, "Where's Infamous?" Infamous probably be fourth or fifth, around what Mercenary Kings would probably make up in there. But Child of Light is special. Like, it really is. It's emotional in a similar way that I think Unfinished Swan or Journey were. Not quite like make me want to cry like Journey did, but there's something there. There's something quaint and unsaid about the characters, and everything is written in rhymes, which is awesome. Right. The writing's really good, music's really good, the fighting system is extraordinary. And what I was talking to Vince about it yesterday. A lot of RPG fans will appreciate this. It reminds me of Final Fantasy VI, not in a literal sense, but in the sense of like how something simple, like in Final Fantasy VI Espers, could dynamically change the entire fighting structure of the game. And this is based all on timing meters on the bottom of the screen, and that's it. So it's like this basically you're moving, at your own speed, and you can manipulate it with magic and items. And when you get to the last 15% or so of the meter, you can start interrupting everyone's moves by attacking them during that time. So it's all about like this timing, but timing over multiple turns. Like, you'll defend to try to sync up with that person so you can interrupt their attack the next time. Like, it's very deep in its simplicity, which reminds me of Final Fantasy VI a lot. Nice. So I highly, highly recommend that game. Highly recommend that game to everyone.
Another neat point about Child of Light, it's sort of piggybacking off of the conversation we just finished, was that that's a game that was a passion project for, I can't remember his name. I believe he was the creative director on, I think, Far Cry 3, if I remember correctly. And he went to Ubisoft management and said, "Hey, I want to do this thing, this little downloadable, smaller tier thing." Credit to Ubisoft for saying yes. We will let you make that game. We will support you to make that game. Most publishers, for the creative director on one of the AAA franchises that's making the company huge money,
do it
would
again
be like,
and make a smaller.
Nope, go back and make Far Cry 4. Sorry, we don't have time for this little thing. Yeah. I think the list of publishers that would have even greenlit and gone ahead with Child of Light and supported that for their developer is very strong. I think Sony would have. Microsoft, maybe not if it was 343. If it was a guy from 343, it'd be like, nope, go back to making Halo. But yeah, Ubisoft is good about that. But like Activision would be like, get out of here. Most publishers, I think, would not have gone along with that game. So credit to Ubisoft there.
I agree, and I think just generally Ubisoft deserves a lot of credit. They're becoming. I don't like Assassin's Creed at all. I'm very clear about that. But I love Far Cry and I love Rayman and some of these other games they do. And
they do a lot of cool stuff.
They're becoming a pretty extraordinarily consistent a publisher.
The
with
crew.
Yeah.
Yes, but for that strength is also a weakness with them because they've also, because they're so open creatively and they really do empower their developers so much, the negative effect is we went, let's see, I don't know if it was something like 4+ years between Splinter Cell games because they literally restarted development 2 or 3 times. Rainbow Six is gone. That was a AAA premier franchise. If they'd have kept going, I'm not defending annualization, but if they'd have just sort of tightened the reins a little bit, they could have had Rainbow Six be a premier, money-making, huge online franchise. Instead, it's gone. Like, 100% of their ground has been ceded to Call of Duty and its ilk.
Artists got to art.
Ghost Recon was restarted multiple times. It took Future Soldier, I think, 4 or 5 years to come out. So they have kind of screwed up some of their major franchises, but but at the same time they make these awesome things happen too. So it's an interesting. I mean, I'd rather have it the way they're doing it than, because Activision's the opposite extreme, where it's annualization or death or screw you,
right?
We're not even going to publish your game. So, I'd rather have a Ubisoft than an Activision, but at the same time, man, it would have been nice to have Rainbow Six. At least one over the last 7 years.
And you'll be pleased to learn this just real quick. Rainbow Six 3 is still my favorite online game, and that was my favorite Xbox game. And I loved that fucking game. I played the shit out of that game on Xbox, man.
Yeah. Did you finish the single-player campaign or just mostly play online?
I played a single-player campaign, and I played the single-player campaign so many times that I would kill everyone on my team. And then you go to some of those maps by myself because I found the controls like so obnoxious to use. It's similar with SOCOM. But I played it online. I used to play online with Jeremy Dunham and Hillary and the old school IGN guys with my headset. I remember walking through the snow in Boston in college to like it was a snow day. We got snowed out. I remember going to Best Buy to buy that game. Remember getting my Xbox Live up. I remember having one of the computer majors on my floor manipulate my Ethernet cable so Xbox Live would read it and I wouldn't get in trouble for
eating up your bandwidth.
Yeah, because if it was like deferring my bandwidth. Shit. It was like this ingenious thing just to play this game, and I still have really fond memories of that game. That's an excellent game.
The original killer app for Xbox Live before Halo 2 came around, and those are the good old days of Xbox Live when you could pretty much jump into any random game, and there would be cool people in there that wouldn't be insulting you.
I remember everyone being really nice.
Yeah, or screaming at their mom for
the
chocolate
early
milk.
Days of online
that are gone
video
forever.
Games. Yeah. Colin.
Yes.
Can you believe it? We have a hit of the week.
I can't believe that. No.
Okay. It's from Ryan, not Clements. Don't worry. He says Beyond. I'm picking up Borderlands 2 Vita bundle and would like to play online with my fellow Beyond listeners. Can I be hit of the week? Ryan, you can be hit of the week. Remember, everybody send him Beyonds and become his friend on the PSN. His PSN name is Shifty1897.
He's old.
SHIFTY 1897.
Born right before the Spanish-American War.
I was going to say right before the Napoleon fight.
It's a veteran gamer right there.
Yeah, Napoleon, in 1897.
So everybody send Shifty 1897. Good vibes. Ladies and gentlemen, that's Podcast Beyond, IGN's PlayStation podcast, the #1 PlayStation podcast on the internet. Remember, send questions to beyond@ign.com. Get the MP3 every Tuesday. Download the video on Wednesday once I upload it.
Then you can download it if you want, but you could just watch it.
You can just watch it too, I guess. Remember we used to download videos or watch videos?
The first video I ever downloaded, we've talked about this before, the first video I ever downloaded on my 56K modem was Triumph the Insult Comic Dog going to episode 1's premiere and making fun of everyone. And it took me like 2 days.
You get the video on YouTube, you get the podcast on your podcast servers, you get the video on IGN.com, and then download that PlayStation 4 IGN app where you can watch everything there. To keep up on what we're doing, go to @IGN on Twitter. I'm @GameOverGreggy. Colin is @NoTaxation. And Ryan is @DMC_Ryan.
Not for Devil May Cry.
No,
correct.
For the
DeLorean Motor Company.
As it deserves to be.
Users lose all sense of reality and enter another world. Remember, do not underestimate the power of PlayStation.